What would you do if your direct supervisor was a petty tyrant who abused his power at every turn? In today's story, the protagonist's response is a masterclass in how to handle it. Back in my 20s, I landed a great job with a large national sewer and drain company called Drainforce National. It was a fantastic place to work, and I was lucky to be trained by some of the most skilled technicians in the industry. The pay was commission-based, so the harder you worked, the more you earned. There was, however, one supervisor, let's call him Greg. Greg was a classic kiss-up. He spent all his time fawning over anyone he thought had influence, like the senior techs, or real power, like the branch and regional managers. For everyone else, especially the new hires and low earners, he loved to lord his power over them. His main leverage was controlling the shift schedules and approving time off. An interaction with one of the top earners would go something like this: "Hey, you need a day off? Sure thing, just let me know when, and I'll be happy to help you out." But if you were a new guy like me, you were lucky if he'd even pick up the phone or give you the time of day. About 3 months into the job, this dynamic came to a head. I was sent on a late-night job to a mortuary. It was a gross, hazardous job, but those paid really well, about $200 in my pocket for an hour's work. When I finished, I felt woozy and lightheaded from some of the chemicals in their sewer lines. I didn't think it was safe for me to be operating the heavy machinery on my truck, so I called Greg to let him know I was taking the rest of the night off for safety reasons. He completely flipped out. He started yelling that if I didn't get back on the road immediately, I'd be facing a disciplinary hearing the next day. Greg thought he was asserting his dominance, completely unaware that this single, lazy abuse of power had just sealed his fate. I just calmly replied, "Sure, Greg, can't wait to see you there." The next morning, I walked into the office for the meeting. The first thing I did was request that someone from HR and our assigned safety officer be present. In a company that self-insures like ours, the safety officer is a very important position. Any safety violation could get you fired on the spot because any insurance claims were paid directly by the company. They didn't mess around. Greg, puffing out his chest, went first. "You can't just leave your shift whenever you want," he said smugly. "You're getting a formal warning, and the next time this happens, I'm going to fire you." I calmly reached into my bag, pulled out our official employee handbook, and opened it to a bookmarked page. I began to read the company policy aloud. I don't remember the exact phrasing, but it was something like this: "If you feel at any time that the situation or job you are on is dangerous, or may lead to a dangerous situation, you are to stop work immediately." I then flipped to another section about not operating equipment if you feel inebriated, lightheaded, or have been exposed to hazardous gases. The policy was crystal clear: you should go home. It even stated that the company would pay for your transportation if you didn't feel safe to drive. I closed the handbook and looked at the safety manager. Did I do anything wrong? He supported me 100%. Then I turned to the HR representative. "What do you think?" They replied, "If it's a safety issue, you go home. No questions asked. Don't worry about your shift." At this point, the regional manager, who had been silent, asked me to step out of the office. The moment the door closed, I could hear him absolutely rip into Greg like a fat kid into a birthday cake. That should have been enough for me, but I'm petty. This revealed a core part of my personality. I am incredibly patient, and I never, ever forgive. Now, some might hear this and think my reaction was a bit much. A commenter on my original story even said, "By the end of this I actually felt a bit sorry for the guy, and thought you were a bit of a dick for taking it too far." Another added, "You sound like a terrible human being that just bullied someone who was ignorant." This is why it's important to understand the full scope of Greg's behavior. This wasn't a one-time incident. Greg was a genuinely awful person who used his minor authority to hurt people. For example, my friend Mark, who helped me throw the party later, had his 12-year-old son die of cancer about a year before Greg left. During that time, Greg tried to have him fired twice for excessive absences. Another friend, David, landed a massive $64,000 contract with a well-known hotel chain. Against the advice of David's direct supervisor, Greg had the contract reassigned to another tech, claiming David wasn't experienced enough, costing him a huge commission. He'd write up new guys for having a messy van when nearly everyone's van was a disaster. He would approve vacation requests but add the caveat that the person might be needed if it gets busy, effectively preventing them from traveling. For low earners, He would just cancel their vacation and put them on call, which was completely against company policy. This wasn't ignorance. It was a pattern of malice. Over the next 2 years, I busted my butt. I became one of the top earners in the city, winning Rookie of the Year in my first year and Salesman of the Year in my second. Meanwhile, Greg was building a reputation for being lazy and irresponsible. In my second year, the company put him on formal probation. This is when I switched into revenge mode. I gathered all the new guys and some of my friends from my shift. I organized them. At least once or twice a week, someone would go to management with a legitimate complaint about Greg. We never lied. We just knew which buttons to push to get him to self-destruct. A new guy would ask for a day off well in advance and Greg would ignore it. Someone would call in sick during a busy shift, and Greg would handle it poorly. Blinded by his own arrogance, Greg never saw the coordinated effort. He just saw a string of bad luck and incompetent new hires, a perception that led directly to his downfall. Finally, the branch manager snapped. He called Greg into his office and demoted him to a regular salesman, and the best part? He put him on my shift. At a company like ours, the shifts are tight-knit. We all talk on our radios in our trucks between jobs and help each other out. During Greg's first few weeks back on the road, our new supervisor made sure he got all the fun jobs, flooded basements, crawl spaces so tight you could barely move, and anything that guaranteed he'd get absolutely covered in filth. As this was happening, I had every single person I was friends with at the company, about 30 people, call him to ask for scheduling changes. Each time, he had to swallow his pride and explain that he couldn't help them because he'd been demoted and was no longer a manager. Eventually, Greg broke. He started crying to the dispatcher over the radio about how he couldn't take it anymore. He quit. The next day, me and 2 of the other guys he'd wronged the most, Mark and David, threw a Greg's Gone party at a neighborhood bar with cake and pizza. We put up signs in the office and made a general announcement in the morning when we knew Greg would be there to hand in his 2 weeks' notice. He actually came up to us, looking defeated, and thanked us for the gesture. That's when I got the pleasure of delivering the final blow. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You're not invited. It's not a going-away party. It's a you're gone party. It wouldn't make sense for you to be at a party where we're celebrating you not being around anymore." His face fell. He just turned and walked away. In the end, about 20 of the 50 employees at our branch showed up, and it was a great party. This story is a clear lesson that how you treat people matters. Abusing the little power you have, especially over people you think can't fight back, is the surest way to create enemies who will patiently wait for the perfect moment to ensure you get exactly what you deserve. So, let me ask you, have you ever had a boss or coworker who got a taste of their own medicine? Share your story in the comments below.